Institute. I'm here in my yoga studio, actually the Rhema yoga studio, but we're borrowing it from them. So there's lots of yoga stuff here. But we're going to talk about something completely different than yoga. We're going to talk about TimeSpace. Yeah, pretty crazy, right? TimeSpace in a yoga studio. I want to talk to you about TimeSpace for this video. What is TimeSpace? It's a realm that we live in as humans. We live in a realm of time-space. It is something that was created by the Big Bang, and it's like this expanding ball. Our universe is this expanding ball, rapidly expanding, and inside of that expanding ball is that realm of time-space. It's a universe that is rapidly expanding, full of time-space, almost a perfect sphere. Now, this means that the outside skin, if you will, of that rapidly expanding, almost perfectly spherical ball that is our universe, is actually like the beginning of time for us humans. Because within that ball is the environment of time-space, and on the outside is that very beginning, that little dot that was there right before it, boom, exploded. So the edge of our universe is the edge of time-space. It's the beginning of our time. So before I go any further, I want you to know I'm not into like mystical, metaphysical, like fake science. I'm into physics. I love physics. I wish I was smart enough to like spend all day getting paid to do string theory and, you know, quantum mechanics and all that, but I'm not. It's not my thing. But I love to talk with you about it, and it totally plays into our ideas here at Rhema of this Christian experience, what it means to live on earth and be justified by faith and ever more sanctified until we go to heaven, which I believe is outside of that expanding bubble called the universe. So what is time-space? Let's go ahead and start with space before we consider time. Space is so real. It can bend, it can twist, it can ripple. Now that might sound really weird for you because I'm not bending or twisting or rippling space right now, right? But it can bend, twist, and ripple. It is that real and that malleable. So this bendy, twisty, malleable space forms the very fabric of our cosmos, of our interior. So I often call the almost perfect sphere of our universe filled with time-space, I often call it a pea. And I say we are in a pea, which is probably in a pea pod. I don't know if there's other peas or universes in that pea pod. It might be just us. But we are in a pea, and inside is time-space. So this time-space is what forms the fabric of our pea, the interior of our pea, if you will. Now, space-time is the real substance of space with galaxies and stars. They seem to be everywhere, but the reality is they are almost like gems in a tapestry, or like the foam in an ocean. Time-space is all throughout our pea, and those galaxies and stars that seem to be everywhere are just like little blips in that massive time-space that we live in. So we are not conscious of space, which is why you probably are like, I can't bend into a space. What are you talking about? Yes, we are not conscious of this space because we're just in it. Just like a fish is not conscious of water. It's just all around him. He doesn't know that it's water, right? Space is everywhere. It's in between atoms even. The tiny atom still has lots and lots of space in it. And in fact, it makes up the majority of what an atom is. The majority of an atom is still made up of space. So what space actually is one of the biggest mysteries that our scientists are trying to consider right now. It's one of the biggest mysteries in the scientific world, actually. So I'm going to go back in time. Now we've kind of set the scene for space, right? I'm going to go back in time to a man called Isaac Newton. This is going back not a few years. This is going back quite a bit, actually. Enter Isaac Newton. Enter Isaac. Good old Isaac. Isaac Newton is the father of modern science, and he's pictured to believe that space was something like an empty stage. So here I am at the Rhema Yoga studio, right? Rhema Yoga, they decorate their walls with tapestries. They've got the screen here, some candles, and this is like a stage 2. If you took away all this stuff, there'd still be walls and a floor. It would be an empty stage. That's how Newton saw our reality, like an empty stage. And he said space is the framework or the arena or the stage for everything that happens in the universe. And so here's where the drama of human life played out. Not even human life though, the cosmos and asteroids and exploding suns, it all played out on a universal stage according to Newton. And the drama was there, but the stage itself was passive. It didn't move, it was absolute, it was eternal, and it was unchanging. Now, the thing is, the action couldn't affect the stage, and the stage couldn't affect the action. They were totally separate, and so the stage had to be you could not affect the stage if you were going to say the stage was unmoving. It's just the way it was. And so this idea of an unchanging stage that could not be affected by the drama and the action happening on it allowed Isaac Newton to actually explain almost all the motion that he could see around him at that time. And that was fine because, like I said, we're like fish in water. We don't realize time, space, and space can be bent. And so it was actually so great that he was able to get that far. And so that's a really important thing for you to understand and to realize, that because time space is massive, we are only looking at it from as an ant would look at the sky. We don't have a clear vision of what it is and everything that it is. So this idea of an unchanging stage was perfect for that reason. It allowed Newton to explain almost all the motion he could see around him at his time. And that yielded so many great things. It yielded the laws of gravity, the way apples fall from trees, and the way that the Earth orbits the sun even. So many things that is able to be explained with the idea of this universal, unmoving, unalterable stage. Such laws were so accurate that we still actually use them today to do things like launch satellites, land airplanes, and much, much more. So space is real, and everything that we consider as motion is happening in this space or on this space. So a person spinning is actually spinning in respect to something, and that is space. And so when Newton considered they were on a stage, he's saying this person is spinning in respect to the stage that they're on. So while much of Newton created is used today, a man named Albert Einstein turned the tables and showed that it was not a universal stage. And so then suddenly the environment inside of our pea, our pea that was created by a big bang, that probably had a big banger, was very different. And it was because of Albert Einstein. Now, who is Albert Einstein? Einstein lived in a much different time than Newton, and that is what allowed him to kind of see the illusion that we were kind of living under, kind of see that we were fish in water that didn't realize what water was. It was some 200 years later, and the development of electricity is what really helped Einstein change the game. So with electricity and light came this revelation. And let's talk a little bit about light now, because it's going to give us insights into space and kind of lead us into a discussion about time. So light. With electricity came light, and with that came ideas about the speed of light, and the speed of light and all the ideas around the speed of light actually began to overturn the ideas Newton had of the nature of space. So the speed of light is the same for everybody, no matter what. And that is the big deal. That's the big idea that came about with Einstein and electricity and light. He realized suddenly that the speed of light is the same for everybody. It's the same for everybody. This might not seem like a big deal. You might be like, what's the point? Let me explain. Speed is just a measure of the space something travels over time. So speed is measuring how much space are you going to travel over a certain period of time. That's it. That's what speed is. So space and time, here's the key, work together. They constantly adjust at exactly the right amount so that no matter how fast you might be moving, when you measure the speed of light, that speed is always the same. That's the point. That's where so as a fish in water, we're too small to see that happening. We can't go as fast as light. We can go as fast as like a couple hundred miles an hour, we might be able to measure speeds much faster than that, but we are not able to go that fast. And so unless you're going the speed of light, you cannot see this adjustment taking place, which is why we were never able to see it, which is why Newton was never able to see it. But as soon as you are able to go the speed of light, which we were able to start to measure with electricity and the ideas that came with electricity and therefore light, you see how space and light start to work together, constantly adjusting at exactly the right amount so that no matter how fast you might be moving, when you measure the speed of light, that speed is always the same. So if that happens, time ceases to be absolute and space ceases to be absolute as well, because they are adjusting. They are adjusting themselves. That is a huge deal. So the two become relative, not absolute, in such a way that they stretch between each other in a flexy, rubbery kind of way. That's not the universal stage, the empty stage that Newton was talking about. Suddenly the stage is flexing and adjusting if it needs to, if it's necessary. That's amazing. Doesn't that sound crazy? It sounds crazy, but only because we don't move fast enough to see that happening in action every day. It seems crazy because we're so small. It's an illusion to us. We're so small we cannot imagine that. If you were on the sidewalk and could somehow see a car traveling at the speed of light, you'd see a car that looked only inches long, and you could hear the watch of the driver, and it'd be ticking so slowly. And if the driver was listening to the radio, the music would be really slow to you. But inside the car, space would appear as it always does, and the whole thing would be normal. The watch would be tick, 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 tick. The radio would be like da 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 da. No slowing down in the speed, no compression of the space. But the driver, as he looked out his car, he would see space wildly flexing and moving and adjusting, all in an attempt to keep the speed of light constant. Because remember, the speed of light is the same for everybody, and space and time is what makes that happen. Space will flex, time will move to keep that happen. So time and space are not rigid, absolute, and separate like Newton thought. They are melded together, they mold together, and they form this rubbery, stretchy, flexible thing. That is the environment that is all inside of our P. That's in our P. And that's the world we live in. That's inside of our universe. Space-time. This is space-time. Space-time is the reason for gravity. The secret to gravity is all into space-time. And so we'll get a little into gravity and talk about some more things in the next video, but I just wanted to get started. That is all for today. I'm going to probably go back to yoga. That's why I got my yoga pants on still. I'm doing Rhema yoga stuff today and Rhema Institute stuff today. It's a busy day here in the Rhema universe. I hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you later.